Prince Harry's final plea, a homecoming without welcome. The air in London crackled with tension, thick with unspoken words and unresolved conflicts. It wasn't just the city's usual chill, it was the weight of a royal reckoning. Prince Harry, once the monarchy's golden boy, had returned, not in triumph, but in desperation. But before we continue, please subscribe, like, share, and turn on the notification bell for more updates. No flashing cameras, no cheering crowds. Just a man, burdened by the past, standing before the gates of Buckingham Palace, hoping for a second chance. Would his father, King Charles III, grant him an audience? And if so, would it be an embrace or an execution, metaphorically speaking? A once cherished prince, now an outsider. Harry had once been the people's prince, the mischievous yet lovable younger brother, the war hero, the breath of fresh air in a stiff, tradition-bound monarchy. But that was before the Megxit, before Spare, before the Netflix deals that laid bare the family's skeletons. Now, he was seen not as a royal, but as a defector. His departure from royal duties had been painted as a quest for freedom, but had it truly brought him what he sought? Life in California had given him a new identity, a brand, not a legacy. He had traded a title for independence, but now, with Hollywood's fleeting affection and the weight of his choices pressing down, he realized he needed something more. So he returned, not for spectacle, not for media attention, but for one final attempt at reconciliation. The tense arrival at Buckingham Palace. London, once his playground, felt unfamiliar. As his car approached the palace, doubt gnawed at him. Had he made a mistake? Would they even let him in? The guards at the gates no longer looked at him with the deference they once did. There was no immediate ushering into the king's presence, no warm reception. Instead, he was made to wait. A deliberate power move. Inside, the palace buzzed with hushed whispers. The return of the prodigal prince was the only topic of discussion. But for King Charles, this was not about gossip or sentiment. It was about duty, legacy, and consequences. A father and a son, divided by duty. When Harry was finally led into his father's study, the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken history. Charles's expression was unreadable. No warmth, no anger, just a practiced neutrality honed over decades of royal duty. Harry spoke first. "I want my title back." The words lingered in the air, but the king did not react. Then, after what felt like an eternity, Charles responded with a measured coldness. "You made a choice, and choices have consequences." It wasn't a discussion. It was a verdict. Harry tried to explain how he had left to protect his family, how he had been suffocated by the institution's constraints, how he had never intended to burn bridges, only to build new ones. But Charles was unmoved. "You chose to leave," he said, his voice as firm as the crown he wore. "Traitors don't need titles." The words hit like a hammer. The weight of rejection. There was no shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just a finality that cut deeper than any argument ever could. Harry had expected resistance, but he hadn't expected such absolute rejection. His father's mind was made up. The monarchy was bigger than one man's regrets. As he left the palace, the realization settled in. There would be no going back. He had sought redemption, but he had found only exile. The cold, lonely walk away. The London air had never felt colder. He stepped into the car, looking back at the palace one last time. Years ago, he had walked through those doors as a prince who belonged. Now, he was simply a man with a past he could never reclaim. The drive to Heathrow was silent. He had come seeking restoration, but was leaving with only the weight of finality. His future was no longer tethered to the institution he had once called home. And perhaps, for the first time, he truly understood what that meant. What comes next for Harry? As his plane took off, carrying him back to California, one question remained unanswered. Where does Prince Harry go from here? Does he continue carving out a new identity, one free from royal ties? Or does he find another way to stay relevant, knowing the monarchy is no longer an option? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The prince who left in search of freedom had found something else entirely, an irreversible distance from the world he once knew. What do you think? Was King Charles right to deny Harry his title? Or should the monarchy have offered a path to reconciliation? Share your thoughts below.